Cha Hyun-soo, an unsociable high school student, moves into the Green Home apartment complex following the death of his family. Haunted by guilt and grief, Hyun-soo struggles with life and contemplates suicide, but his pretty neighbor, Lee Yun-yu, distracts him. However, the peaceful and quiet atmosphere of the apartment complex is soon disrupted by a series of strange and terrifying incidents. People start undergoing horrifying transformations, turning into bizarre, bloodthirsty creatures driven by their deepest desires and fears. As chaos unravels, Hyun-soo finds himself trapped inside the apartment building with other survivors, including a reckless musician, Yoon Ji-soo, a dangerous gangster, Pyeon Sang-wook, and a brave firefighter, Seo Ik-young. Together, they must adapt to this new reality and fight to stay alive. Back in his room, Hyun-soo starts bleeding profusely from his nose. As tensions rise and fear takes hold, conflicts arise within the group as they grapple with paranoia and mistrust. Yoon-yu's cautious brother, Lee Yun-hyuk, takes on the role of a new leader and attempts to persuade everybody that they must rely on their wits, caution, and resourcefulness to outsmart the monsters. Unfortunately, Kim Suk-hyun, a greedy owner of the local convenience store, refuses to share anything. As the residents check the news, they realize that this disease has spread countrywide, and they are currently in damage control mode. The relentless attacks from the monstrous creatures escalate, and while protecting Yoon-yu, Sang-wook gets bitten. Everyone believes he's infected, so he is left isolated from the group. Ji-soo and Jong Jae-han, a Korean language teacher with a sword, find Sung-jae, a beaten captive of Sang-wook. Hyun-soo teams up with the paralyzed genius, Han Do-sik, to save the kids from the apartment block below. After he finds them, he has another seizure, but this time his eyes turn black. The kids are left alone with two monsters at once. Thanks to a brave woman named Myung-suk, they make it to safety. Jae-han and Ji-soo rescue Hyun-soo and join them in Do-sik's flat to decide what they'll do next. Hyun-soo admits that he's infected and makes a pact with Ji-soo that if either of them turns, they'll kill the other. The survivors watch a broadcast about the current pandemic, which ends with the president's death, and their panic materializes in Suk-hyun locking himself inside the convenience store and refusing to let anyone else in. Sung-jae shows up with a suitcase packed full of food and generously shares it with everyone, but he still looks very suspicious. Cha Ji-nok sees her daughter running to the building. One of the men rushes to help the girl, but a disgusting tentacle creature kills them. Ji-soo, Hyun-soo, and Jae-han leave the kids with Do-sik and Myung-suk and descend to the first floor to join Yoon-hyuk and the rest of the survivors. Ik-young gets trapped by a monster that looks like a giant spider but manages to fight it back and escape. A news report confirms that the military will be in charge of all security and civil affairs from here on out. It also states that the creatures regenerate quickly, but there's a moment called the golden hour when they can be killed. Yoon-hyuk is aware that Hyun-soo is infected, so he offers the residents the opportunity to vote on his fate. As a result, Hyun-soo stays with the group but has to be isolated, along with Suk-hyun, who also exhibits symptoms. Sang-wook finds Sung-jae and beats him until the boy races away and locks himself up in the same room as Hyun-soo and Suk-hyun. Then, he asks Hyun-soo how to turn into a monster like him. Do-sik discovers that Myung-suk has transformed into a massive sack with a baby inside. From now on, Yoon-hyuk makes Hyun-soo do all the dangerous work to fulfill everyone's needs. He tasks Hyun-soo with saving Do-sik with the kids and bringing them to the rest of the group. On his way, he meets two other survivors, an old man, Eun Gil-seop, and his caretaker, Park Yuri. Together, they head to Do-sik's apartment and plan their next move. Sang-wook searches Sung-jae's apartment and finds a room full of his macabre trophies. There are hundreds of pictures of children, beaten and lying on the floor. Now, it is clear why Sang-wook was hunting that pervert. Sang-wook fights with Sung-jae, defeats him, and drags his body outside the building. Then, he takes the bodies of Ji-nok's daughter and her protector inside. There, the pair are given a proper burial as the residents join together and pay their respects. Ik-young discovers that she is pregnant. While the residents start building traps for the monsters, Ik-young decides to go on a solo mission outside to look for information about her recently deceased fiancé, the chief physician, Sang-won. Upon reaching his office, she reads his report on the pandemic. Suddenly, a group of soldiers catches her. They hold her captive, and Ik-young promises to show them someone resisting becoming a monster if they let her go. Not everyone is happy with the way Hyun-soo is being used as an errand boy. Despite being infected, he is still a human with his own feelings, and he shouldn't have to risk his life for someone else's needs. Suk-hyun begins to turn into a monster, and his wife finally gets revenge on her cruel and abusive husband by killing him. The monsters attack the survivors once again, and they all have to work together to fight back. Eventually, they stop taking Hyun-soo for granted and apologize to him. Yuri and Sang-wook grow closer to each other. With the water tank contaminated, the group realizes they have some serious problems. Yoon-hyuk and Do-sik try to devise a plan on how to venture outside and gather resources before it's too late. Jisoo develops appendicitis and requires surgery. The group splits into two, with Yoon-hyuk and those who assist him with Jisoo's surgery, and Hyun-soo and his team heading outside to acquire the resources they need. As soon as they face the outside world, a giant creature invades their car. With Yuri stuck in the car and Gil-sob infected, the situation seems hopeless. However, Ik-young arrives on a fire truck, serving as the distraction needed to enable the others to scramble to safety and get rid of the monster. Inside, Yoon-hyuk completes his surgery and saves Jisoo. Ik-young is faced with a difficult choice. The soldiers promise to tell her the truth about Sang-won in exchange for bringing Hyun-soo to them so they could experiment on him. Adding to the drama, a rogue soldier shows up in the apartment block and behaves very oddly. The residents realize that the army might pose an even greater threat than the monsters around them. To make matters worse, one of the monsters catches the survivors off guard, and Jae-han sacrifices himself to save the group. Jisoo is completely heartbroken and devastated, as she and Jae-han genuinely liked each other. Gil-sob suggests finding an underground bunker hidden somewhere near the apartment complex. Shortly after that, he notices a truck racing up to their building. A group of aggressive men intrude into the complex, kill the runaway soldier, and start hunting the rest of the residents. Their leader, Yoon-sob, threatens the survivors on their own territory, kills a couple of them, but keeps his true motives secret. Realizing that humans are the worst monsters, the residents must find strength and fight for their lives. Yoon-sob takes Hyun-soo to a rooftop and tortures him when suddenly, one of the criminals kills Yoon-sob and the rest of his gang. It turns out that this man is infected but remains human, just like Hyun-soo. He wants to strike a deal with Hyun-soo, just as a military helicopter flies over with a leaflet regarding the infection. According to the leaflet, the military promises to save anyone who has information about special infected individuals. The mysterious guy tells Hyun-soo that he went to the authorities looking for a cure, but they only experimented on him and couldn't do anything to help him. Now, he wants Hyun-soo to leave with him and go look for other humans like them. However, the military has one more option, Operation Golden Hour. If they give up hope of ever finding salvation, they are able to shoot everyone on sight, humans and monsters. Yuri has an asthma attack, and Sang-wook wants to take her outside. But the mysterious man realizes that Hyun-soo will always stay loyal to his friends and not him, and starts a bloody massacre. Hyun-soo lets the infection take over, turns into an unknown creature, and attacks the intruder. As he wins, Do-sik gives up his life to help Hyun-soo return to his human form. Hyun-soo is okay but doesn't remember anything. Gil-sob finds the bunker but dies shortly after that. When the army surrounds the apartment complex and threatens to swarm on them, the group has to decide what to do next. Most of the residents go inside the bunker, while Hyun-soo heads outside to confront the army. Yoon-hyuk tries to stop him and stays in the building, which means that he decided to sacrifice himself as well. When the group comes out from the bunker, they are met by a group of soldiers, who take them to the survival camp. Hyun-soo accepts his fate and fights the army. At least, he is a very hard nut to crack. When he eventually wakes up after the battle, he finds himself in Sang-wook's car, heading into the unknown.